Strat-O-Matic Excel Carryover League. Brought to you by the Shrimp Troll.
(1973 to 1976). Welcome back, baseball fans. The 1973-76 Carryover League. We continue today in the first round of the postseason tournament in the American League East, a battle with the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. Let's go right to the tournament schedule. We have to catch up on some stuff here. We had a series between Kansas City and Milwaukee. The broadcast didn't turn out, so I had to cancel that production on YouTube. But I can give you the short story. Kansas City folded up like a cheap tent in that one, needing to beat the Brewers 6 out of 7 times. Well, the Brewers weren't having any of it. They won 2 straight, which really sets up an interesting dynamic in that division now. Boy, these 3 teams here, White Sox, Twins, and Brewers, they're extremely difficult outs. They don't have a gaudy win percentage, but you don't want to tangle with any of these teams. White Sox are probably the most talented, have the first place. But the Kansas City Royals just didn't show up at all, and their offense, their pitching, their defense, it all slumped. Terrible year. It's just 28 lousy games and you're done. That's the potential headache when you're not playing 162 games. You never get that correction. And Kansas City's looking at the first overall pick in the draft and maybe bumping up George Brett to a batting title card. I mean, that's what their organization is thinking about now. So that's what happened there. By the way, these 2 teams who are tied, Twins have the tiebreaker. They beat the Brewers head-to-head. So Twins stay in second, Brewers stay in third. They're going to have to tangle with the teams out west, so I don't think they'll have any problem with these clowns down here, whoever they end up playing. It could be the White Sox, Twins, and Brewers all make the playoffs this year, folks, so something to think about early in this process. Well, we have another situation happening here. Let's go to the situation of the moment, which is the American League East, the Yankees and the Blue Jays, near or under 500, but below Baltimore and Boston, so they end up in 3rd and 4th. Still having a reasonable year. The Yankee +3 means they beat the Blue Jays 4-1 the first time they met. However, they had home field in that series. Now the Blue Jays have it, which means it'll start in Canada. Here's somewhat difficult math for the Blue Jays. They're a half a game back. So winning 4-3 in a conventional best of 7 isn't quite good enough. And it means that they would be a half a game ahead at that point. But Yankees would still have a tiebreaker of +2 at that point. And that is enough to invoke the tie-breaking game 8. So that's why the Blue Jays need to win 5 of 8 games instead of 4 of 7 games. They get to win a best of 7 and then play the tiebreaker, or just get to 5 wins is the easiest way to look at it. They need to get to 5 wins. The Yankees need to get to 4 wins. Whoever gets there first, series is over. Other team is eliminated because Boston is secure with a record of 500 not to fall into last place. So let's show you what's happened. Opening up in Toronto, Mel Stottlemyre versus Bert Hooton, the aces of both teams. Hooton went to the All-Star game, and Hooton threw a no-hitter this year. The Yankees don't think highly of Bert Hooton. You get a double by Nettles, RBI single by Maddox. They end up getting another double and stranding a couple of runners, 1-zip. Willie Randolph singles, steals a base, scores on a Roy White single, 2-zip. Blue Jays get a run in the bottom half on a Jerry Harrison RBI single. And then they unload on Bert Hoot in the 4th inning. After an out, you get a Chambliss single. After 2 outs, G. Michael singles, a walk to Willie Randolph, and then, unfortunately for Toronto, fly ball to center fielder Ron Woods. He botches it into a 2-base error. A couple guys score, and then Bobby Mercer with a 3-run homer. It is now 7-1 at this point. The next batter is Fred Stanley, who actually entered the game when Greg Nettles got injured, which will be a problem later on in this game, his lack of defense at third. He gets hit by a pitch immediately after Bobby Mercer hits a home run, and the bench is clear. As I like to say, when you see a hit by pitch after a home run, like these teams don't like each other, you know? And so it's Bert Unhappy Hooten, not Bert Happy Hooten, which was his nickname. He's unhappy because the All-Star, a dude who threw a no-hitter this year, is getting knocked around 7-1. Stottlemyre goes to the 5th inning. He gets 3 outs. He can qualify for a win. Not so fast. Toronto Blue Jays have other things in mind, as in a single, and a single, and a single, and a walk, and a single, a wild pitch, an RBI double by Ron Woods, and a triple by Tim Foley. It's a 7-7 tie. Stottlemyre blows a 6-run lead, trying to qualify for a win in the 5th. He's chased after 4 1/3, 12 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned. Fred Sherman comes on in relief, puts a couple guys on in the 6th inning. They bring in Tidrow, a righty, to face a righty, Ron Woods. He gets a double. Blue Jays get an 8-7 lead. 8th inning, Tidrow is chased. Fred Bean comes in there. Blue Jays care less about him either. Double, double, single, single. 2 more runs. It's 10-7. Blue Jays win 10-7, which is, I mean, this is a heavy lifting game. You're down 7-1. I mean, this is the work the Big Red Machine would do. This is the work the Oakland A's would do. If you've gone to a World Series or you're on that short list, that's what you do. That's how you grab victory out of the jaws of defeat. These are the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're doing this work with journeyman extra guys. Beating the Yankees. Oh, way back on opening day, the Yankees blew a 8-9 run lead to the Minnesota Twins this year. So we know which team is caving and which team is overachieving already in the series. Blue Jays get a 10-7 win at home. Game number 2. Claude Osteen, Clyde Wright, battle lefties. In this one, scoreless until the 5th. Blue Jays are just going to hang around. A walk, a single, a walk, a single, a walk. Well, take a double play that scores a run without an RBI. Still gives you 3 runs. That's fine. Now, Clyde Wright has a little difficulty in the 6th. A single, double, single, but he gets a pop-out single and a couple outs. Minimizes the damage to 2 runs. And that's the end of the scoring. It's Toronto's bullpen. Bob Miller, Eddie Bain, and Elias Sosa, who slammed the door shut on the Yankees. And by the way, Greg Nettles gets injured again in this game. Weird. When you get injured in this, you just leave the game. But still, the defensive replacement is worse, and the Blue Jays have reached off of Nettles' replacement. Every opportunity to get an advantage. These Blue Jays are snipers, folks. They just seem to take what very little they have, and they make a ton of juicy lemonade. I'm telling you, folks, the Blue Jays know how to produce and play competitive baseball games against all odds. So let's go to New York for Game 3. Doyle Alexander versus Doc Medich. Coggins hits a ground ball to Chris Chambliss. He kicks it for an error. Milt May walks. It's a 2-out, 2-run double by Ed Kranepool. 2-0 Blue Jays. Bottom of the 3rd, we get a Thurman Munson homer. It's 2-1. 3rd inning, after 2 outs and a single, Rich Coggins gets a triple off of his card. 3-1. The Yankees get 2 walks, a single, and a bases loaded walk to Chambliss to make it 3-2. Blue Jays respond with a couple walks in the 5th and an Ed Kranepool 3-run homer. Walk, 3-run homer. You gotta love that. You gotta love how compact that is and tight. 3 runs, 1 hit, no one left on base. This is a microcosm of winning in Strat-O-Matic. You get guys who do this enough times, your team's gonna win. Doesn't matter what the Hall of Fame resume is. 6-2, and the Yankees just limp along in glazed eye, wondering what is going on in this matchup. 9th inning, Eddie Bain gets the save. He does give up 2 singles and the error. Bobby Mercer grounds into a double play to end the game. Sorry, Bobby. He's had such a great series of years for the Yankees, and he went 2 for 3 today, but sad ending there. Toronto wins the first 3 games. They're up 3-0 in the series, a 6-3 victory. Let's show you what happens in game 4. More of the same? Well, by my tone, yeah, pretty much more of the same here. Carl Morton versus Lenny McDaniel. Well, Lenny McDaniel is a very unusual relief 4 starter 8. How do you get to be a relief 4 starter 8? Well, Lenny McDaniel is one with a 2.80 ERA. Probably should be even higher in the rotation, but he's the number 4 starter. Pitch is an absolute gem. Nobody can do a thing in this game. We get some walks, a couple singles. 8th inning, Milt May walks, Jerry Hairston singles. You get a ground out by Mike Lum. The runners advance to 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. And you get the lefty Ed Kranepool, who doesn't hit lefties very well. So what do the Yankees do? They bring in Sparky Lyle, their great closer. Lefty on lefty. Lyle walks him anyway, on the Lyle card. And then 227 hitting Ron Woods. Lyle walks him as well. Thanks, Sparky. Bases loaded walk, 1-0 Toronto. They wouldn't score again in this game, but it doesn't matter. Carl Morton, a double in the first, a double in the second, a single in the third, a single in the 7th. 8 scoreless innings, and Toronto goes, we'll take you out with a shutout because we're Toronto. Whatever we do, it works. You'll either throw a complete game victory or the reliever will come in and close it out. So let's go to the bottom of the 9th, shall we? Elias Sosa, the Toronto closer in air quotes. Roy White singles. How about being aggressive? How about being determined to kick Toronto's butt and make a roaring comeback? How about not caring to tie the game and just want to win the game with 2 runs at the bottom of the 9th? Roy White tries to steal in base. He gets cut down by Milt May. Then Elliot Maddox, singles. Then Bobby Mercer, he singles. Maddox, do you want to go 1st to 3rd to get the runner to 3rd? 1st and 3rd with 1 out. That's the situation you want. Do you want to run to 3rd? Maddox off the 0 arm in left field. He's a 15 runner. He gets thrown out of 3rd base. Everything works for the Blue Jays, folks. Everything works for the Blue Jays. And the Yankees, they just melted. Greg Nettles strikes out to end the game. Elias Sosa's line, he gave up a hit, he gave up a hit, he gave up a hit, and he struck out a batter, and he got a save. Complete 9th inning there. 1 run, 4 hits for Toronto. No runs, 7 hits for the Yankees. Toronto puts 12 men on base. They walked 8 times in this game. They're almost like, they kind of remind me of like the Oakland A offense when they're, in the dynasty era that we're playing. As far as getting on base. Like the Oakland A's always got on base with Gene Tennis and Sal Bando. They figure out a way to get on base. They just don't have the sluggers like Reggie Jackson and Bando or whatever. They just know how to just produce and win tight baseball games. That's all it is. And so the Blue Jays rip off 4 straight wins. Unbelievably. I guess we can look at it another way and say maybe this Yankee lineup and roster doesn't have enough of the 1976 juice. They certainly don't have Reggie. Reggie's not here. Ed Figueroa's not here. So the ace, their stopper, their best player, Reggie. Mickey Rivers is not here, a catalyst, leadoff guy. The Bronx Zoo, there's no Bronx Zoo here. I mean, Bobby Mercer can't carry this team anymore from the early 70s to mediocrity where they were. So it opened the door for Toronto to just come in here and just punch the Yankees in the mouth. And the new owner is not happy about it. Some guy named Stein something. He just showed up in the off season. Let's look at the standings as we speak at this moment. So, remember the guys who were in last place? They're not in last place anymore. Whoops, boom, whoops, boom. They're right here now. They're ahead of Boston by a game. They're 2 over 500. Red Sox are at 500. Now the Yankees are 5 under. And by looking at that, kind of turn this around. I haven't sorted this, so you have to like kind of look at it like an elevator or whatever. So yeah, the Yankees find themselves 3.5 games behind the Blue Jays. Good news for the Yankees is they all they need is a 4-game winning streak, and all they need to do is split 8 games with the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays have to go home. But it's not looking good now, folks. Yeah, it's just not it's not shaking out right now, folks. So anyway, we got a Game 5 in Yankee Stadium. It's a rematch of Game 1. For the Blue Jays, it's Bert Happy Hooten. Threw a no-hitter this year, went to the All-Star game, incited a brawl in Game 1. Gave up 7 runs and still pitched 6 innings and got a victory. Think about that. 18 wins, a 3.06 ERA for the Dodgers in 235 innings. How did the Blue Jays get Bert Hooten? Well, what they did was they got Jerry Royce. Previously, when Royce was leaving Houston, going to the Pirates, going to the Dodgers, they sniped Jerry Royce in the compensation pick, and then they flipped Jerry Royce for Bert Hooten, which they're both pitchers are really good. But that's how they flipped that and got Happy Hooten on the Blue Jays. They've just done a really... Sometimes in expansion, teams just do the smart thing over and over and over and over again. And the Blue Jays have done enough of that to get a nice little baseball team. Now, that being said, folks, they're a couple games over 500. Okay, they're not the big red machine by any stretch. But, you know, I mean, you look at these other expansion teams you see elsewhere. You know, look at these records, right? Yeah, this is how... Look at the Florida Marlins, right? Okay. How about Seattle, the Toronto sister out in the Pacific Northwest? Yeah, they're not... Yeah, they're bad. They're a bad roster, too. Toronto's the exception that just figured this thing out early. Maybe that's the key too. If you figure it out early, you don't have to suffer, and then you can just quietly build. It's like the Blue Jays when they were building that team in the 1980s. They were outstanding long before they ever went to a World Series. They were great in 83, 85. And then, of course, the Cito Gaston era and so forth. So the Blue Jays had a nice precursor to greatness by solid building. I don't know what else to say. I'm a big fan. I really am of this particular roster. They're fun to play with guys you've probably never heard of. So we got Game 5. The Yankees are going to send Mel Stottlemyre out there. His 73 card, he's still good. He's 16-game winner with a 3.07 ERA in 273 innings. Mel Stottlemyre's career would end before the traditional Toronto Blue Jays would come into existence, which is in 1977. So that's sort of the reckoning we have today. Game 5 in the Bronx. Leading off for the Blue Jays, it'll be Rich Coggins. 68's a base hit. Milt May. Do you want to steal? Do you want to hit away? Whatever you decide will work. Milt May will hit away. 59 flies to center. He would have gotten caught stealing if he attempted it. See, that's how I rationalize it. Jerry Hairston, another 59 flies to center, and with 2 outs, it's Mike Lum. 510 flies to right. Good inning for Stottlemyre. Yankees have juggled their lineup because they know I don't know what else to do. Just try something. You know, you can't keep going with the insanity plea here. You got to mix it up. So now Bobby Mercer, if they're going to go out, they're going to go out with their best player leading off. Bobby Mercer's taking the leadoff role today. 2-4, he grounds to the pitcher. Elliot Maddox, 1-7's a base hit. Chris Chambliss, 4-11, left X, out in left field. Rich Coggins, a 3-5, is a double. Second and third, and Greg Nettles, 2-7 is a K, and with 2 outs, it's Munson. 64 off a hoot in his catcher's X. Should be able to get a run on a pass ball or something. Wild pitch, scores a run. I'll say this too, folks. Whenever I have a trend when I'm playing these games, and then I stop everything I do, and I turn on the YouTube broadcast for you guys, a lot of times that trend flips. I've noticed that. It's like I just stole all of Toronto's mojo, and now the Yankees might just storm away and take over here. So I'll float that scenario as a potential. Ed Kranepool, 65, pops to third. You know, and to sort of acknowledge that, the Chicago Cubs have already been eliminated this year, and the last 3 times they have been on YouTube, they've won, I believe. Fergie Jenkins hit the Cincinnati Reds, and then Fergie Jenkins beat Bob Gibson of the Cardinals. So you can win on YouTube and still be lousy, is what we're saying here. Ron Woods, 1-7, is a grounder to third. And Tim Foley, 2-5, pops out. Bottom of the second, it's Gene Locklear. 43 first X. Your first baseman is Kranepool with 3-3. And a rare error on an E3 first baseman. That's highly unlikely. It'll be Randolph. 1-8 for Randolph. 1-4, base hit. Runners on the corners, and Roy White's moved all the way down to the 8 spot here. 2-12 is a 3-6-3 double play, but a run will score. And with 2 outs, Fred Stanley, 69, flies to center. Well, Toronto just conceded that run with nobody out and runners on the corners without playing the infield up, and it's 2-0. I guess you can do stuff like that when we're up +4 in the series. Top of the third, Gary Sutherland, 48, is a base hit. Darrell Chaney, 1-4, 4-6-3 double play. And Rich Coggins, 1-12, grounds to first with an injury. Well, things aren't developing here early for the Blue Jays. They lost their left fielder. They'll replace him with just Cleon Jones. He's on the bench. Just Cleon Jones. You remember Cleon Jones from the New York Mets, right? Yeah, he's back in New York on the visiting dugout today. He'll take over in left field. Bottom of the third, it's Bobby Mercer. 63, short X. Tim Foley's a 2-27. Makes the play. Elliot Maddox, 4-10, pops out. Chris Chambliss, 5-11, second X. 3-26 at second. E26. It's a single. And Greg Nettles, 57 is a K. Well, for Hooten, he was losing 7-1 in the first game, and they came back and won. This is just 2-zip. This should be easy pickings for the Blue Jays. Milt May leads off the fourth. Milt went to the All-Star game. 68, base hit. Jerry Hairston, 45, second C. Runner moves up for Mike Lum, 1-4. Rolls to second. Runner to third for Ed Kranepool. 39's a walk. They're on the corners for Ron Woods. 2-4, pops to third. Bottom of the fourth. Munson, 69, flies to center. Gene Locklear, 1-7, is a base hit. Willie Randolph, 1-7, homer 1-2, fly ball, misses it. And with 2 outs, Roy White, 2-4, flies to center. Another low-scoring game. 1-0 game, now we have a 2-0 game. Top of the fifth. Tim Foley, 2-9 short. Gary Sutherland, 4-8, is a single. Darrell Chaney, 2-6 is a walk. Oh boy, he just walked the 200 hitting number 9 hitter. Now we have Cleon Jones in for the injured Rich Coggins. 57 pops to short. And with 2 outs, it's all-star catcher Milt May. That seems weird to say, but it really did happen. 66 short X. Fred Stanley's a 3E16, and Fred makes the play. Yankees are much sharper today than they've been. 2-zip. Bottom of the 5th. Let's pause a moment for station identification.
This is the Shrimp Trawler video channel.
Este es el canal de videos de camaroneros.
You know, if the Yankees do come back and win this series, it would be a treat. But really what it would set up is failure in the next round of the tournament. I mean, I think they've just dug their grave. It's a moving game. You have to move up in the standings, and the best they can hope for is status quo, which is, you know, they were a game under 500 to start this thing, and yeah, okay, all right, I'll stop. Bottom of the 5th. It's Fred Stanley, 1-8, flies to center. Bobby Mercer with optimism. Come on, Bobby. 37 is a walk. There we go. Elliot Maddox, 65, flies to center. 2 outs. Chris Chambliss, 1-7, grounds the first. We go to the 6th. 2-zip. Mel Stottlemyre having a moment here. Very nice start. Jerry Hairston, 59, flies to center. Rolled it like 3 times today. Mike Lum, 410. Uh-oh. Off the Stottlemyre card. Found it. Homer 1-14 double. He'll have to settle for a double. The tie runs Ed Kranepool and the folks here in New York. Yeah, you got Cleon Jones on this team. You have Ed Kranepool. They had Tommy A.G. They had Don Clendenon. The Blue Jays are where New York Mets go to die in this era. And they're all back here in the Bronx this time after having breakfast this morning in Queens. Ed Kranepool, 210, rolls back to the mound. 2 outs. Ron Woods, 39, flies to center. So Stottlemyre gets out of that homer double miss. A rare blown opportunity for the Blue Jays. 2-zip, bottom of the 6th. It's Greg Nettles, your 1976 American League home run king. 39, grounds the second. 32. That was enough to lead the league. And a down year for the long ball. Thurman Munson, 45, pops to short, and with 2 outs, Gene Locklear, 1-5. Let's take a look at this. So, if you're wondering, Gene Locklear did play for the Yankees for a year, or half a year. I think it was in 76. It wasn't very good, but that's because he came off of this card with the Padres, 321 in 250 plate appearances. And so the Yankees went out and got him. It didn't work out, of course. And Locklear would be moved to Japan, I believe, after that. But 1-5, homer 1-11 is going to be a double. The Gene Locklear era. Don't expect World Series trophies for the Yankees. And that'll be Randolph. 3-6, he strikes out. Could the Yankees improve their defense to protect this 2-run lead late? And they actually can by putting Marvin Lane in left field for Roy White, who is a liability defensively at this point of his career. They'll make that subtle change. And we'll go to the 7th inning. The Blue Jays are scoreless. Well, they were scoreless through 7 yesterday, and well, they got a run in the 8th and won the thing. Tim Foley leads off. 46, second X. Randolph at 2E24 makes the play. Gary Sutherland, 410, finds Stottlemyre on the right side. 1-1 double. It's a 2-base hit. Now you got Darrell Chaney. 210. Let's take a look at the Darrell Chaney card of 1974. See, this is how you are competently organizing your baseball team, okay? Here's a guy with the Cincinnati Reds who had no interest in him whatsoever. With 135 bats, he hit 200. But here's the thing. He drew a lot of walks. He's pretty symmetrical. He theoretically could play every day. He's a lefty who has power. He even has power versus left-handed pitching, a full-time power for a left-handed batter. He's a 3 at all infield positions, and he's even a beat bunter. He's a 14 runner. He's just a contributor in a lot of small little effective areas as a role player who can help your team out if used in the right amount. Here, it's a base hit to left field. Sutherland will not get thrown out when they're down 2. So we have runners in the corners with 1 out. Stottlemyre's looking over, but he's a starter 8, and he's not going anywhere. Plus, Sparky Lyle blew the previous game with a couple walks. Cost his team game 3. So Fred Bean's good. Dick Tidrow's good against righties. Fred Sherman's pretty mediocre in the Yankee pen. They'll play it back with a 2-0 lead. They're not going to hold the slow runners, and it'll be Cleon Jones. 2-7. Let's take a look at Cleon Jones. Well, he started the day on the bench. Wasn't supposed to play today. He normally gets the day off and only plays against lefties. But he's still really good against righties. You just take these guys if the rest of the league, if the Mets have moved on from Cleon Jones because it's not 1969 anymore, Toronto says, come up north. We'll get you some sweaters to keep you warm, so you don't have to worry about the chilly Canadian air there. You'll love it up here in New York. Toronto, 282, 13 homers, 500 plate appearances, 1974 for the Mets. They love him in Toronto. That's a single to right field. Does Cheney go coast to coast with 1 out to get the tie run at third? 14 runner. But Maddox is a -3 arm in right field, so they'll do the smart thing and stay at second. 2-1 game. Now you have a situation, if he was a starter 7, he'd be out. But because Stottlemyre's a starter 8, he gets to stick around for better or worse. Play back for a double play, and it'll be Milt May. 2-11, pops to first. And with 2 outs, it's Jerry Hairston. 3-11 is a strikeout. So, nice finish for Stottlemyre in the inning, protecting a 2-1 lead. Stretch time. Here in the 7th inning, we are enjoying this wonderful little mix I put together of Charlie Rouse and Jerry Mulligan and others, including Stan Getz and Paul Desmond. Charlie played tenor sax with the Monk Quartet, mostly in Europe during the 1960s. Jerry Mulligan had collaborations with just about everybody. And we got records by all these collaborators. Oscar Peterson Trio is in here. And it's just wonderful stuff. We like to get our swing jazz going when we play in New York. At least before the Bronx Zoo shows up. Of course, I guess once the Bronx Zoo shows up, they'll change the jukebox and they'll start winning more games. Bottom of the 7th, Happy Hootens, a starter 7. He's not going anywhere. He will face Marv Lane, the guy who came in for defense. 54, pops to first. Fred Chicken Stanley, 2-6, grounds to third, and back up top to Bobby Mercer. 1-3, rolls to first. We go to the 8th inning. Getting a little dramatic here. You got lefty, lefty, righty, righty, righty. You could go lefty for 2, righty for 3, or leave Stottlemyre alone. Interesting thing about Sparky Lyle, by the way. Normally, in his peak cards, he was always better against righties, the reverse platoon, and kind of weak against lefties. This version of Sparky, the 74 version with a 166 ERA, is a sort of a conventional lefty who dominates lefties. So you could bring him in here now for a 2-inning save, but we tried something like that in the 8th inning yesterday and it didn't work. And Stottlemyre is just kind of ordinary against lefties. Whatever I do, it's not going to be the right decision. I'm convinced of that. Let's look at Stottlemyre's complete line here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's put 10 men on in 7 innings. That's not exactly sparkling. Let's just make our bed with Sparky Lyle and call it a day. Here we are. Sparky Lyle's coming on in the 8th inning because, yeah, I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to beat the Blue Jays. I really don't know how to do it because they always win the strategy battles. You know, they're like they're up the ladder. You know that ladder we talk about. They're that chess ladder, whatever. They're up there on that ladder. They're way up there on that ladder. I don't know if they have the minor league system. You know, they're not going to get Lloyd Mosby and George Bell and Kelly Gruber and Jimmy Key and Tony Fernandez. Oh, we're way away. That's a long time before we see that stuff. That's not going to happen. So trying to figure out how to stop this particular configuration, I don't know. We'll bring in Sparky Lyle, try and see if we can get a 2-inning save. In 74, he's 9-3 with a .166 ERA in 114 innings, and arguably he is the best pitcher on the staff. So let's just leave it at that. Sparky Lyle and the Yankees season to this point. Mike Lum leads off for the Blue Jays. 67's a strikeout. Easy Ed Kranepool. 1-6 is a base hit. And I have Ron Woods. 47, single one of 15 off of Sparky Lyle. He rolls at 18. Big break for Sparky. And a rare Toronto miscue, not converting the single there. 2 outs, man at first for Tim Foley. 53, a roller to first. We go to the bottom of the 8th, and Hooten will continue. Winning a complete game. It's Elliot Maddox. 45, pops to short. Chris Chambliss, 67. He strikes out. And Greg Nettles, 33. He rolls to first. We go right back out there. The Yankees got in the dugout and said, "Look, Sparky, get him back out there. Don't let him sit in the dugout too long." So they just hit the first pitch, all those dudes. An 8-pitch inning for Hooten. We go to the 9th. Sparky Lyle, can you win a game for the Yankees and break a 4-game losing streak and prevent the elimination? We already have their defense in there. Leading off the 9th for Toronto is Gary Sutherland. 46 off of Sparky's a leadoff single. He's a 12 runner. And on the bench, do you have any better base runners than that? And you don't. You don't have any better base runners than that. Before I get to the next batter, I got to correct this. I put that in the wrong spot. That hit for Cleon Jones an inning ago. Okay. We do have Carl Taylor on the bench as an 11 runner, and Dave McKay is also a 12. So, all right. Runner at first, and Darrell Chaney. 36 is a strikeout. Normally the road teams don't play to tie, so that's why we didn't bunt there. Back up top to Cleon Jones versus a lefty. We saw the card. It's a pretty good one. Here's your pitch to Cleon Jones. 55, second X. This is Randolph. He's a 2E24. And he plays it into a single. Nice job there, Willie. Nice job. Oh, he's a rookie. 76, Willie Randolph's a rookie there. First and second, 1 out. And number 2 hitter, Milt May. Let's take a look at Milt. Milt's had a really excellent year. And again, this is what the Blue Jays do. They find these guys. Milt May would have been a Pittsburgh Pirate, right? They had Manny Sanguillen. They can't afford to keep Milt May, so he becomes unprotected, and the Blue Jays go, give us a starting catcher named Milt May. My goodness. He's a 289 hitter. He hits always, he had many years where he hit for a high average. In 1981, he hit 310, I believe. He hit 280-something in 72 or 3. Here he's hitting 289 with 7 home runs and 460 plate appearances. He's a zero-arm catcher. He's actually Houston. So he left Pittsburgh to go to Houston in this part of his career. Here's the pitch to Milt May. 3-7 is a strikeout. And with 2 outs and 2 on, it'll come down to a pinch hitter for Jerry Hairston, who doesn't hit lefties very well. So it's either Carl Taylor or Dave McKay. I guess we'll go Carl Taylor. Sure, why not? It'll be Carl Taylor. Let's take a look at Carl. Carl Taylor was a Kansas City Royal in 73. He hit 228, but again, an effective card because of the walks. Told you, these are like the Oakland A's. They draw walks. They keep innings going. 32 walks, 145 at-bats. You do that in a full season, you'll walk 100 times. He can play catcher. He's a zero-arm catcher, too. Not bad. I would expect him to be a +2 arm, but he's a zero. He can play first base and can be a DH. Could be an everyday player as a DH if we wanted him to, but here's the pitch to Carl Taylor. 211, and in the middle of the column, he misses his hits and walks, and 211 is fly ball to center B, and that is some really bad luck for the Blue Jays. Maybe the worm has turned. Taylor misses the column, and the game ends on a fly ball to center field, and there is jubilation in New York as the Yankees have figured out how to beat the Toronto Blue Jays. After beating them 4 out of 5 times before the All-Star break, and then the Blue Jays come back and punch them in the mouth 4 times in a row, the Yankees get a win, and the series will continue. That means that the Yankees and Blue Jays have played 10 games this year and split them. Hooten gets a complete game loss. Strat-O-Matic gets a win. Sparky Lyle gets a save, 2-inning save. Yankees still have work to do going back to Toronto. Game 6 in Toronto will be Claude Steen for the Yankees, acquired from the Dodgers in the offseason, versus Clyde Wright. And in Game 7, it'll be Doyle Alexander for Toronto versus Doc Medich. And if there is a Game 8, the tie-breaking game we spoke of, if Toronto doesn't have that 5th win yet, it'll come back again to a rematch of this. It'll be Stottlemyre-Hooten for the 3rd time. And in Game 8, because they'll pitch on 3 days rest. So, fun times here. We'll take a break, and then we'll give you the box score for this game and the results of game number 6 and 7 and 8 if we play those. So stick around. Well, folks, let's just get right into this. Here's the box score of the Game 5 you just saw. The Yankees down 0-4. They come back and win 2-1. Stottlemyre 7 innings, 8 hits, the 1 run allowed. Toronto botched some opportunities in this game. Toronto is starting to be inefficient where they were extremely efficient before. The Yankees 2 runs on 6 hits. Toronto 1 run on 11 hits. But they could not come away with a victory. Stottlemyre 7 innings, 8 hits, a 2-inning save for Sparky Lyle. So we go to Canada. The Blue Jays need 1 more victory. We'll have Game 6 in Toronto. Let's take a look and see what happens in game number 6. It is Claude Steen versus Clyde Wright. And immediately the Yankees are now comfortable getting off the slide. They've got nothing to lose. They already were down 0-4 in this series. And they've got the lineup, they're going to let it roll with Bobby Mercer leading off. First inning, Mercer, Maddox, Chambliss, singles. After a couple outs, Kendall, Randolph, Stanley. 4 runs right out of the blocks from Clyde Wright. Blue Jays respond with a Michael homer, make it 4-1. By then in the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th innings, they unload on Clyde Wright. A single walk, a 2-run double by Marv Lane, an RBI walk, Nettles. Locklear comes in because the outfielder gets hurt and he has to go in and play. He gets a double. So you get fortuitous luck from guys who weren't even in the starting lineup. It completely falls apart for the Blue Jays, and early in this one, there is not going to be a 7-1 comeback at all. They throw up the red flag in this. It is a 10-2 Yankee drubbing. Claude Steen went 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs allowed. And the Blue Jays filter through the bullpen, and now it's second guessing time for the Blue Jays. The clock has struck midnight. They have pumpkins and mice and no Prince Charming anywhere around. They got to refigure this thing on the fly. They still need to win a baseball game. They won the first 4, lost the last 2. Here is Game 7. Game number 7 in Toronto. Heartbreaking game of Doc Medich, Doyle Alexander. First inning, Bobby Mercer leading off, doubles. Chris Chambliss doubles, 1-0. 1-0. It stays that way. 1-0. And in the bottom of the 7th inning, Gary Sutherland, who actually has power versus right-handed pitching, not left-handed pitching, rolls homer 1 of 4 off the Medich cards. With a lucky homer for Sutherland, the game's tied at 1. It goes that way to the 9th. Doyle Alexander, a guy who actually did play for the Blue Jays, pitched rather well for them, the late 70s, early to mid 80s. Had a nice long career, did Doyle. He's left in there in the 9th inning. He gives up a walk to Nettles, a double to Munson, a walk to Locklear, but then he's pulled as he hits this point of weakness. The closer in a tie 1-1 game is Elias Sosa. They ask him to come in, but he faces Roy White, a guy known to be a patient hitter. He gets a walk on his card, and that walks in a run. Blue Jays play the infield up. They do get a 6-2-3 double play and a flyout as Elias Sosa minimizes the damage. Just that one walk off the Roy White card. 2-1 game, bottom of the 9th. Sparky Lyle had a day off. He also had a second day off when the Yankees blew the Blue Jays out. So he comes on to the 9th. There is a leadoff double by Gary Sutherland, and in another second-guess moment, Darrell Chaney. We had this situation before, and he swung away. Here he swings away and strikes out. Carl Taylor grounds out. Dave McKay, a pinch hitter. That's your ball game. Yankees hang on and win a nail-biter and a heartbreaker. 2-1, third straight win for New York. 7 games are done. Blue Jays are a half game in front, but the Yankees have the tiebreaker. You have to be at least a tie or a half isn't good enough. You have to be up by at least a game to invoke a tiebreaker, or needing a tiebreaker. So game 13 of the year between these two teams will be in New York, game 8. Game 8 in New York. And it's going to be Bert Hooton versus Stottlemyre for the 3rd time. And folks, Bert Hooton, the all-star, the guy who threw a no-no earlier this year, he really did not pitch very well at all against the Yankees in this series. First inning, it starts out good for the Blue Jays. A single by Coggins, a walk to Milt May. Michael on the heartbeat of this offense, RBI single. Ron Woods RBI single, but Lum gets thrown out the plate trying to get a 3rd run. It wouldn't matter. Bottom of the inning, Bert Hooton gets knocked around. Maddox, Chambliss, Nettles, Munson, Locklear, Willie Randolph all get hits. 4 runs. 4th inning, Maddox, Chambliss, Nettles, Munson. 7-2. The final score is 10-3 Yankees. They have their way. What an incredible pendulum swing of emotions in this series. The Blue Jays had everything rolling their way for the first 4 games, but literally it's like boom on the clock. The clock struck midnight, and every small little move paid off, and it just rolled downhill. They lost some close games, and they got blown out twice. They look in the mirror and they realize they just don't have as much talent as New York Yankees. Plain and simple. And eventually, after 8 grueling games, we've talked about coming back 0-3 in a best-of-7 series. How about coming back 0-4 in a best-of-7+ game series? Because that's what the Yankees have just done. 4-game winning streak for the Yankees. They win 8 of 13 for the year against Toronto by splitting 8 games. What does this all mean? Let's go take a look at the tourney result. There we go. Toronto needed to win 5 of 8. They just couldn't get that 5th win. The Yankees split the 8th game. The 8 games, which means nothing changes. After all this work, the overall standings in the American League East is exactly as it was 8 games ago. It's just that these teams have played more games between each other. The Yankees are still a game under 500, and the Blue Jays are still 2 games under 500. Together they're -3 under 500. And what's the big picture look like? Well, Red Sox are still there in second place, a half game ahead. They'll play the third place team, whoever that is. We don't know what's going to happen here yet because the Expos have collapsed in this division. And the Yankees will play the second place team in this division in the next round. But it is a sad ending to the Cinderella tale of the Toronto Blue Jays finishing this year 17 wins and 19 losses for a team that didn't even exist yet, and just getting them players through the expansion draft and through free agency, using the compensation pick for the Commissioner Award for roster utilization. They used that to get Jerry Royce. They flipped Jerry Royce to get Bert Hooton. Hooton, as the ace of the staff, finishes the year 5-6 with 6 complete games, though the ERA is very good. Yeah, his ERA is 2.95, and that includes getting knocked around by the Yankees quite frequently. They hit 279. The Toronto Blue Jays hitting 279 in this era of their career, with guys like Darrell Chaney and Gary Sutherland on their roster, and Tim Foley. They hit 279, so they overachieve hitting. They have a 3.63 ERA. That's also overachieving. We'll do an eliminating Toronto video coming up soon. The Yankees, as they continue in the tournament now, run differential, they've flipped it because of the 2 blowouts. So they're 168, 159. They're +9 in run differential, even though they have a losing record. The starting pitching is completely mediocre, as you would imagine. Sparky Lyle has lost 3 games and blown save attempts, but he still has 8 saves, and he still had some critical saves at the end of that series. And their offense is led. Is this going to be Bobby Mercer? Of course. He's got 7 home runs. He's got 29 RBIs to lead this club. He's 57 for 159. Mr. Yankee, Bobby Mercer, hitting 358. And I mentioned this during the All-Star Selection Show. I used the 71 Bobby Mercer card for 4 years, the 72 Bobby Mercer card, and now the 73 Bobby Mercer card. He is delivered with every card Strat-O-Matic has printed for me. I just got Bobby Mercer luck in the last 6 years using this card for the Yankees. He's just been unreal, never slumping. And the Yankees, their season continues. You got to hand it to a team who goes down 0-4. And we talk about these fishing trips other teams took, not the Yankees. Break them up. They come back down 0-4. They win 4 in a row to eliminate the Blue Jays. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you next time.